Ernesto Guevara was born in 1928 in Argentina to a middle-class family. His parents were leftist intellectuals, but, young Ernesto wasn't thinking about revolution. He was fighting asthma attacks and dreaming of becoming a doctor. Everything changed in 1952 when he took a motorcycle trip across South America with his friend Alberto Granado. They rode through Peru, Colombia, and Venezuela. But honestly, it wasn't the scenic views that transformed him, it was the poverty he witnessed. In Peru, he met indigenous people living in conditions that shocked him. In Chile, he saw miners working in deadly conditions for almost nothing. In Venezuela, he watched American companies extract oil while locals lived in slums. The comfortable Argentine medical student was gone. Something harder was taking his place. He wrote in his diary, "I knew that when the great guiding spirit cleaves humanity into two antagonistic halves, I would be with the people." The doctor who wanted to heal individuals was becoming someone who wanted to heal entire societies. Back in Argentina, Guevara couldn't settle into normal life. He'd seen too much. In 1953, he left for Bolivia, then Guatemala, following the scent of revolution wherever it led. In Guatemala, he watched the CIA orchestrate the overthrow of President Jacobo Arbenz, a democratically elected leader who had dared to redistribute land from American companies to peasants. Guevara was there when the planes bombed the capital. He was there when Arbenz fell. This was his political education. He learned that reformist governments would always be crushed by American power. The only way to change things was through armed revolution. Fleeing to Mexico, he met a group of Cuban exiles led by Fidel Castro. They were planning to invade Cuba and overthrow the dictator Fulgencio Batista. Guevara volunteered immediately. Castro asked him to be their medic. Guevara said he'd rather fight. In December 1956, 82 men landed in Cuba on a leaky boat called the Granma. Within days, most were dead or captured. Only 22 survived to reach the mountains. Guevara was one of them. In the Sierra Maestra Mountains, Guevara transformed from Argentine intellectual to Cuban revolutionary. He learned to fight, to lead, and to kill. His first execution came early. A peasant named Eutimio Guerra had betrayed the rebels to Batista's forces. Guevara shot him himself. He wrote later that he felt no emotion, just the cold necessity of revolution. The rebels called him Che, an Argentine expression meaning hey or buddy. But there was nothing casual about his approach to war. He was methodical, disciplined, brutal when necessary. He set up schools for illiterate peasants, but also execution squads for deserters. His tactics were simple but effective. Hit government forces, then disappear into the mountains. Win over the peasants by treating them fairly, something Batista's corrupt army never did. Build an army one village at a time. By 1958, Guevara commanded his own column. He led the decisive battle for Santa Clara, capturing the city with just 300 men against 3,000 government troops. The victory cut Cuba in half. Batista fled on New Year's Day 1959. At 30 years old, Che Guevara had helped overthrow a government, but really, the real work was just beginning. In March 1960, a photographer named Alberto Corda took a picture that would change everything. Che was at a memorial service for victims of a ship explosion. For just a moment, he looked directly into the camera. The photograph captured something electric. The intense stare, the long hair, the beret with its single star. It was the face of revolution itself. Corda didn't even print it at first. He thought it was just another shot, but that image would become the most reproduced photograph in history. It appeared on t-shirts, posters, murals, and flags around the world. Students in Paris carried it during the 1968 protests. Rebels in Africa painted it on their vehicles. Musicians and artists turned it into art. The irony was perfect. Che Guevara, the communist who despised capitalism, became the world's most successful brand. His face sold everything from beer to underwear. He became a symbol divorced from his actual beliefs, a poster boy for rebellion without revolution. The man who had executed prisoners and run prison camps became a romantic figure. Death had transformed the controversial revolutionary into a safe symbol of youthful defiance. After Cuba's victory, Guevara couldn't sit still. He tried to be a government minister, running Cuba's economy and representing the country at international meetings. But he was restless. Revolution was his calling, not bureaucracy. In 1965, he left Cuba secretly to fight in the Congo. He believed revolution could spread across Africa and Latin America like wildfire. He was wrong. In the Congo, he found chaos instead of revolution. Local fighters weren't interested in his Cuban tactics. The mission failed completely. But Guevara wasn't finished. In 1966, he arrived in Bolivia with a small group of Cuban and Bolivian fighters. His plan was to create another Sierra Maestra, a guerrilla war that would spread across South America. Everything went wrong from the start. The local Communist Party refused to support him. The peasants didn't join his cause. The CIA was tracking his every move. His group was isolated, outnumbered, and running out of supplies. On October 8, 1967, Bolivian troops captured Guevara in a ravine. He was wounded, exhausted, and defeated. The next day, on orders from the Bolivian government and CIA, he was executed by a Bolivian sergeant. His last words were reportedly, "I know you've come to kill me. Shoot, coward. You are only going to kill a man." Che Guevara's death created a legend, but it also revealed the contradictions of his life. He was a doctor who became a killer, an idealist who ran execution squads, a symbol of freedom who helped create a dictatorship. In Cuba, he's remembered as a hero who helped liberate the country from American imperialism. Streets, schools, and monuments bear his name. His image appears on Cuban currency. To many Cubans, he represents the hope of the early revolution. But others see him differently. Cuban exiles in Miami view him as a terrorist who helped create a regime that imprisoned and killed thousands. They point to his role in the executions at La Cabana Fortress, where he oversaw the deaths of hundreds of Batista supporters. His economic theories were disasters. As president of Cuba's national bank, he signed currency with Che instead of his full name. His attempts to industrialize Cuba through moral incentives rather than material rewards failed spectacularly. Sugar production collapsed under his management. Yet his influence on revolutionary movements worldwide was undeniable. From Nicaragua to Angola, from Vietnam to Ireland, guerrilla fighters studied his tactics and quoted his writings. His guerrilla warfare handbook became required reading for rebels everywhere. The man who wanted to create the new man, selfless, dedicated to collective good, became instead a global brand representing individual rebellion. Today, Che Guevara exists in two forms, the historical figure and the commercial symbol. The gap between them grows wider every year. The historical Guevara was complex and contradictory. He genuinely believed in equality and justice, but he also believed violence was necessary to achieve them. He helped create a Cuba free from American domination, but also a Cuba where political dissent was crushed. The commercial Guevara is simpler, a symbol of rebellion that sells products to people who would have horrified the actual man. College students wear his face on t-shirts made in capitalist factories. His image advertises everything from cigarettes to smartphones. This commercialization would have disgusted him. In his message to the Tricontinental, he wrote, "We must not go on thinking that the consumer is the most important thing in the world." Yet his face has become the ultimate consumer product. In Latin America, his legacy remains complicated. Some see him as a hero who stood up to American imperialism. Others view him as a foreign adventurer who helped bring authoritarianism to the region. In Bolivia, where he died, some indigenous groups remember him as another outsider who tried to tell them how to live. The real tragedy isn't that Che Guevara failed to create his perfect revolutionary society. It's that the world turned him into exactly what he fought against, a commodity to be bought and sold, stripped of meaning and context. Perhaps that's the ultimate irony of revolution. The rebel becomes the brand, the symbol survives while the substance dies, and the face that once terrified governments now sells beer in college towns. Che Guevara wanted to change the world. Instead, the world changed him into a poster.